Welcome to CozySideAudio, where every story pulls you deeper. If you like the thrill, the mystery, and the chase, like, share, and subscribe before the next clue disappears.
CozySideAudio presents The Premonitions of Harper Van-Kate, The Case of the Stolen Mascot, Head. Chapter 1. The first thing Harper Van-Kate noticed at the pep rally wasn't the music or the sea of red and gold pom-poms shaking under the stadium lights, or even the football team trying to look tough while secretly sweating in their jerseys. It was the squirrel, or more accurately, the absence of the squirrel. "Tell me I'm wrong," Harper muttered, narrowing her eyes at the line of cheerleaders. They were waving, twirling, smiling, but not a single oversized furry head in sight. Tessa Grant, Harper's best friend and long-suffering roommate, was chewing on a nacho and squinting at the field. "You're wrong about 95% of the time. Odds are in your favor." "No, no, no." Harper smacked Tessa's arm, ignoring the cheese smear she left behind. "Where is Nutty?" "Who?" "Our mascot, the glorious buck-toothed symbol of Elmwood University, the dancing squirrel of destiny. He's supposed to be doing his little cartwheels right now instead." Harper pointed to the cheer squad, who were clearly stalling with a very long chant. "We've got pom-poms, we've got shouting, but where is the rodent?" Tessa sighed. "Maybe he's running late. You run late, constantly." "Nutty never runs late. Nutty is tradition. He's legacy. He's the spirit of this school, embodied in foam and fur. And I—" Harper raised her voice dramatically, drawing the attention of at least 3 students nearby. Had a premonition this would happen." "You didn't." "I did," Harper insisted, tossing her hair like she was on a crime show. "A flash, a vision. The squirrel head gone, vanished into the ether. People laughed at me, Tessa. They said, 'Harper, you're being dramatic again.' And now, behold, mascotless chaos." "Or," Tessa said dryly, "maybe the person wearing it got heat-stroke last time and decided not to risk death by sweat sponge tonight." Before Harper could counter, the cheer coach, a woman with the intensity of a drill sergeant, jogged to the center of the field. She forced a smile that looked more like she was chewing broken glass. "Ladies and gentlemen," she boomed into the microphone, "due to unforeseen circumstances, Nutty the squirrel will be slightly delayed." The crowd reacted, instantly groans, confused shouts, even a chant of "We want Nutty" from the freshman section. Harper gasped theatrically, clutching Tessa's sleeve. "This isn't a delay. This is a theft." Tessa pulled her nachos closer, like they might be confiscated too. "Don't start." "I'm not starting, I'm observing. Deduction, Tessa. Cold, hard logic." Harper stood on the bleachers to get a better look. Notice the cheer coach's face, panic thinly disguised as perkiness. Notice the cheer squad, whispering in tight little huddles. And notice— She jumped down, nearly knocking over a sophomore in a foam finger. Puff! The conspicuous absence of a large storage crate near the sidelines. That's where they keep Nutty between routines. "It's gone." "You're going to get us thrown out," Tessa muttered as Harper darted toward the field. Harper ignored her. She had a mystery to solve. Campus security, unfortunately, had other ideas. "Back in the stands," barked Officer Griggs, Elmwood's most perpetually annoyed guard. He was blocking the tunnel that led under the stadium, arms crossed like he was protecting Fort Knox. Harper flashed him her most innocent smile. "Griggs, just the man I was hoping to see. I had a premonition Nutty was in grave danger, and lo and behold, Nutty has vanished. Clearly the cosmos is speaking through me. You should let me investigate." "You should go sit down," Griggs said flatly. "But the squirrel is none of your business." "On the contrary, it is entirely my business." Harper gestured broadly, nearly hitting a passing band kid with her elbow. "Do you want morale crushed, school spirit destroyed? Do you want the freshman chant squad to riot because they're 2 beats away from revolution?" Griggs pinched the bridge of his nose. "Miss Van-Kate, if you interfere in an official security matter again, I swear—" What if I told you, Harper interrupted, lowering her voice conspiratorially, that I already have a lead? Griggs's expression didn't change, but Tessa, who had finally caught up, groaned. Oh no, don't encourage her. A lead, Harper continued smoothly. That involves suspicious rival activity. She pointed toward the ground near the storage tunnel. A crumpled red and black wristband lay half hidden by a popcorn bucket colours belonging not to Elmwood but to their hated rivals at Ridgeway University. Griggs blinked. For a second, Harper thought she saw doubt flicker across his grumpy face. Then he shook his head. Coincidence, probably dropped at a previous event. Or, Harper countered, planted, to mock us, to taunt us, to flaunt their treachery in our very faces. Premonition, Tessa deadpanned. Premonition, Harper confirmed. Sit down, Griggs barked again, and this time Harper let herself be herded back toward the bleachers, but her mind was already racing. The missing crate, the panicked coach, the rival colours, brazenly left like a signature. This wasn't a prank. This was sabotage. Don't say it, Tessa warned, plopping back onto the bench beside her. I have to say it, Harper whispered dramatically. This is no ordinary theft. This is an inside job. Why do I live with you? Because destiny bound us together in the great dormitory lottery of life. Because the housing office lost my transfer request. Details. Harper leaned back, staring at the field as the band struck up a too cheerful tune to distract the crowd. Her pulse quickened. She didn't need psychic visions to know one thing. The game had changed. The squirrel was gone, and Harper Van-Kate was going to find it. Chapter 2. By the time Harper and Tessa made it back to the dorm later that night, the news had already spread across campus like a caffeine-fueled rumour wildfire. Nutty the squirrel was gone, vanished, abducted. Some students swore it was a prank, and Nutty would return by morning, dangling from the clock tower or stuffed into the dean's office chair. Others whispered about Ridgeway's infamous Mascot raids, claiming this was just the latest strike in a decades-long war. Harper was already 10 steps ahead. She was sprawled across her bed, a spiral notebook balanced on her knees, scribbling furiously with a glitter pen she claimed gave her visions. Tessa was brushing her teeth in the corner, watching Harper with the kind of flat expression only a roommate could perfect. What are you doing? She mumbled around a mouthful of toothpaste. Formulating a timeline, Harper replied, not looking up. The cheer squad noticed Nutty missing at approximately 7:08, give or take a cartwheel. Witnesses report the storage crate was gone before the rally began. Ergo, the theft occurred between 6:45 and 7:05, prime Mascot stealing time. Prime time for dinner too, Tessa said, spitting into the sink, which is why normal people were in the cafeteria instead of lurking around a squirrel head. Harper pointed the glitter pen like it was a weapon. That's exactly what the culprit wants you to think. They're counting on people assuming it was just a prank, or a rival smash and grab. But she thumped her chest dramatically, I know better. You had a premonition. Exactly. Tessa pulled on her pajamas and climbed into bed, clutching her blanket like a shield. Do I even want to know what your next step is? Harper's grin was feral. We're going to the scene of the crime. Of course we are, Tessa muttered, switching off the lamp. The storage room under the stadium was locked, dark, and smelled faintly of mildew and spilled Gatorade, which was why Harper had an arm wedged through the window before Tessa could even protest. This is breaking and entering, Tessa hissed, glancing nervously up and down the deserted path. This is investigating, Harper corrected, grunting as she tried to squeeze her shoulders through the too small gap. Besides, if they didn't want students breaking in, they wouldn't have windows this conveniently Harper-sized. You're stuck, aren't you? There was a long pause, then Harper's muffled voice. Temporarily. Tessa sighed and gave her a shove. Harper tumbled through with all the grace of a sack of laundry. She landed in a heap on the concrete floor. See, Harper called, brushing dust off her jeans. Perfectly executed. Tessa rolled her eyes so hard, Harper swore she heard them squeak. The room was small, lined with shelves of sports equipment and stacked cardboard boxes. A single overhead bulb flickered, throwing long, creepy shadows across the walls. The big rolling crate where Nutty's costume was usually stored was indeed missing. In its place, scuff marks on the floor, as if something heavy had been dragged. Harper crouched low, running her fingers along the marks like she was reading a book in Braille. Dragged toward the exit, not lifted. Which means one, maybe two culprits, but not the entire cheer squad. Interesting. Or it means whoever did it didn't feel like carrying a 6-foot foam squirrel head, Tessa said from outside the window. Details, Harper muttered. Her sharp eyes scanned the floor, darting from corner to corner. That's when she saw it. A single feather. Bright red. She held it up triumphantly. Clue number 1. It's a feather. A red feather, Harper corrected. And what colour are Ridgway's pep rally costumes? Tessa frowned. Red and black. Exactly, a calling card, Tessa. They were here. Harper tucked the feather into her notebook like a pressed flower. But she wasn't done. Near the far wall, she spotted a torn scrap of paper taped haphazardly to a shelf. She peeled it off and squinted at the smeared ink. A ticket stub. Ridgway's pep rally last weekend. Clue number 2, Harper whispered. Or some Ridgway kid just dropped it, Tessa said, but her voice was less confident this time. Harper pressed the stub to her forehead, like a psychic at a carnival. Yes, yes, I see it now. Betrayal. An inside job. You're ridiculous. And yet I'm right. Harper stood, dusting herself off. There's no way Ridgway kids got in here alone. They needed help. Someone gave them access. Someone from our school. The words hung heavy in the stale air. For once, Tessa didn't have a snappy comeback. Think about it, Harper said, her voice quieter now. The locks, the timing, the crate dragged instead of carried. Whoever did this knew exactly where to go and when to strike. This wasn't random. It was planned. And you think one of our own sold us out? Tessa asked softly. I don't think. Harper's eyes gleamed. I know, it was in my premonition. Tessa groaned. I'm going to regret asking, but what's the plan now? Harper grinned like a cat with cream. Now we find suspects. The next morning, campus was buzzing. Flyers had already appeared on bulletin boards. Missing. Nutty the squirrel. Reward for safe return. Someone had even posted a meme of Nutty's head on a milk carton. Harper strolled through the quad like she was on a runway, scanning the clusters of students whispering about the theft. Every side-eye, every nervous giggle, every too loud denial. Potential suspects. All of them. Tessa trailed behind, clutching her coffee like it was the only thing keeping her alive. Please tell me you're not going to interrogate random students. Not random, Harper said, zeroing in on a group by the fountain. Strategic. The group wore matching hoodies, the Mascot squad, the students who rotated shifts wearing Nutty at games. Harper adjusted her backpack straps and strutted over. Good morning, fellow patriots of rodent pride, she announced. They blinked at her in confusion. One, a tall guy with acne scars and a perpetually suspicious glare, folded his arms. What do you want? Answers, Harper said, leaning dramatically against the fountain. Tell me, who had access to the squirrel crate last night? The girl in the group snorted. Why do you care? Because I had a premonition, Harper said solemnly, and in it, Nutty wept. The group stared. Tessa buried her face in her hands. The tall guy finally spoke. Only the squad has the keys, but none of us took it. Did anyone seem unusually sweaty? Nervous? Perhaps making too many nut-related puns? Harper asked. No, he said flatly. But Harper wasn't convinced. She caught a flicker of something in his eyes, guilt, fear, gas. Hard to say. She smiled slyly. We'll see about that. And with that, Harper Van-Kate's investigation officially began. Tut-tut-tut. Chapter 3. The problem with interrogating college students, Harper quickly realized, was that none of them took her seriously. The Mascot squad sat in a lopsided semicircle on the grass, each perched on a backpack or milk crate, sipping iced coffees like this was a casual chat instead of a high-stakes investigation into the theft of Elmwood's most sacred cultural artifact. Harper paced in front of them, notebook in hand, projecting her best detective energy. You are the chosen few, the wearers of fur, the guardians of Nutty's legacy. And yet, she snapped her notebook shut for dramatic effect. One of you may have betrayed us all. Is she for real? One of the guys muttered to another. She's always like this, Tessa confirmed from her spot leaning against a tree. She didn't even look up from her phone. Just let her burn out. It's faster. Harper ignored the peanut gallery. She zeroed in on the tall guy from yesterday, the one with the suspicious glare. Name? Derek, he said reluctantly. Derek, Harper repeated, savouring the syllables like they might confess something on their own. Tell me, Derek, how long have you been wearing the squirrel? He frowned. Since freshman year. 3 years of service, Harper mused. Plenty of time to grow resentful of the itchy fur, the suffocating heat, the unrelenting stench of... What is that smell, anyway? Febreze and sweat, another girl offered. Delightful, Harper said, jotting it down. So, Derek, did your resentment finally boil over? Did you snap and decide Nutty deserved an early retirement? Derek's glare deepened. I didn't take it. Harper leaned in closer. Then why are you sweating? Because you're interrogating me in direct sunlight. Convenient excuse, Harper said, narrowing her eyes. Tessa sighed. You're not in an episode of Law Order, Harper, he's just hot. Harper waved her off. Fine, let's move on. She pointed her glitter pen at the girl with the coffee. You. Name? Kayla, the girl said, clearly unimpressed. Kayla, Harper intoned. You look awfully comfortable with that iced latte. Almost too comfortable. Did you bribe Ridgway's mascot to take Nutty with a venti cold brew? Kayla blinked. What? Premonition, Harper said smoothly. That's not even... Ugh. Kayla shook her head. I was in the library last night studying. You can check. Don't tempt her, Tessa warned. She will check. Harper scribbled something dramatic in her notebook, mostly doodles of squirrels in prison jumpsuits. Then she pounced on the last squad member, a stocky guy with shaggy hair who looked like he hadn't slept in a week. And you, my friend, what's your deal? He yawned. I'm Jake. And where were you during the rally preparations? Asleep. Suspicious. I had an exam this morning, pulled an all-nighter. I literally have no idea what's going on. Harper tilted her head, studying him. The exhaustion looked real enough, but that didn't mean he was innocent. Sometimes exhaustion was the perfect cover. She snapped her notebook shut again. Interesting. Very interesting. The squad exchanged bewildered glances. Tessa finally pushed off the tree and walked over, putting a hand on Harper's shoulder. Okay, Inspector Gadget, let's not turn this into a witch hunt. But the traitor is here, Harper hissed. I can feel it in my bones. You can feel your caffeine buzz, Tessa corrected, which, by the way, is terrifying to witness. Harper pouted, but she couldn't deny the suspects weren't cracking yet. She needed another angle, something bolder, something theatrical. And then she spotted it, Derek's backpack half-zipped, with something sticking out of the side pocket, something red. Her eyes narrowed. Slowly, deliberately, she crouched and yanked it free. A red feather. The group gasped. Derek shot to his feet. That's not mine. Classic culprit move, Harper declared, holding the feather aloft like Excalibur. Explain this, Derek. Explain why Ridgway's calling card is tucked neatly into your belongings. I don't know. Someone must have planted it. Likely story, Harper said. Or maybe you're the inside man. Maybe you sold out Nutty for... what? Fame. Fortune. A scholarship to Ridgway. This is insane, Derek snapped, looking around desperately. Tell her! but the other squad members just looked uncomfortable. Even Kayla was eyeing him like maybe Harper had a point. Tessa rubbed her temples. Oh no, here we go. Don't worry, Nutty, Harper whispered to the heavens. Justice will be served. And just like that, Derek officially became suspect number 1. Chapter 4. If Harper had been running an actual courtroom, Derek would have been cuffed and carted away already. But unfortunately for her, and fortunately for Derek, campus security didn't accept squirrel sense tingling as probable cause. So, instead of an arrest, all Harper could do was stalk Derek from a not at all suspicious distance of 15 feet as he trudged across campus. Tessa dragged her along by the sleeve. You can't keep following him. He's going to file for a restraining order, and then you'll have to investigate yourself. Harper ducked behind a bike rack. That feather was in his bag, Tessa. In his bag. He's guilty. End of story. Or, Tessa countered, he was set up. Which, by the way, is the thing you usually accuse people of when you're running out of dramatic speeches. Unlikely. Harper squinted at Derek disappearing into the athletic complex. He's going to report to his handlers. Tessa sighed. You mean the football team? Exactly. Harper pulled her notebook from her hoodie pocket and slapped it against her palm. The Ridgeway Falcons and the Elmwood Beavers are blood enemies, and who's more entangled with mascots than the football players they cheer for? You're unbelievable, Tessa muttered. But she didn't stop Harper from sneaking in after Derek. The athletic complex smelled like sweat, turf, and Axe body spray, a combination Harper considered conclusive evidence of moral corruption. The football team was mid-practice on the indoor field, pads slamming, coaches yelling, whistles blowing. Derek had vanished into the locker rooms, which meant Harper and Tessa were stuck lurking on the sidelines. This is insane, Tessa whispered. We're going to get tackled. Not if we blend in. Harper grabbed a stray helmet off the bench and shoved it onto her head. It immediately wobbled over her eyes. You look like a Funko Pop, Tessa deadpanned. Camouflage, Harper corrected, pushing the helmet back into place. She crouched dramatically. Now, observe. She pointed at a cluster of players gathered at the water cooler. One of them had a towel draped over his shoulders, a towel with faint traces of grey and white fuzz clinging to it. Harper gasped so loudly that the nearest player looked over. Tessa smacked her arm. Shut up! Nutty fur, Harper whispered. On their towel, it's all connected. You don't know that's Nutty's fur. Whose else would it be? Harper hissed. How many people do you know with grey and white fur just lying around? Tessa opened her mouth, then shut it. Okay, fair. But still. They crept closer. The players were laughing about something, passing around someone's phone. Harper strained to hear. Can't believe they actually got it, one of them said. Yeah, Ridgeway's going to go nuts when they... Another chuckled. Harper's eyes widened. Got it. Ridgeway. Nuts. The evidence was falling into place like dominoes. She straightened up, pointing her glitter pen like a sword. Confess, she yelled. The football players froze. Tessa groaned into her hands. You! Harper shouted, advancing on the towel guy. Explain the squirrel fur on your towel. Explain the coded conversation about Ridgeway and getting it. Explain your entire existence. The player blinked. What? Harper jabbed her pen at him. Return, Nutty, or face the consequences. The entire team burst out laughing. Towel guy shook his head. We weren't talking about your creepy squirrel. We were talking about the Ridgeway playbook. Someone got a copy of it before the game next month. Wait. Harper's pen lowered. You mean sports espionage? Yeah. Oh. Harper's face fell. That's less interesting. Less illegal, too, another player smirked. Tessa grabbed Harper by the arm before she could launch into another rant. Sorry, guys, she's, doing research for a criminology class. Maham! They hauled Harper towards the exit while the team kept laughing. Sports espionage, Harper muttered. I mean, come on. That was practically a confession. You heard them. I heard you humiliate yourself in front of 30 linebackers, Tessa corrected. Semantics, Harper grumbled. But as they stepped back into the sunlight, Harper's notebook still clutched to her chest, she realized something important. Derek hadn't been with the football players at all. He'd vanished into the locker rooms and hadn't come back out. Her eyes narrowed. Derek, she whispered, you slippery little nut thief. Chapter 5. The locker room was, in Harper's words, a temple of secrets. In Tessa's words, it was a crime against her nose. The moment they pushed through the heavy double doors, a wall of odour slammed into them, sweat, mildew, rubber, and something vaguely resembling spoiled cheese. Tessa pinched her nose. I think I just lost 3 years of my life expectancy. Shh. Harper crouched low, as if expecting Derek to pop out from behind a row of lockers with a villainous monologue. The nut thief lurks. The nut thief, Tessa whispered. That sounds like a bad stand-up routine. Mark my words. He's hiding something. People don't just disappear into locker rooms without emerging. Unless, Harper's eyes gleamed, he has a secret passage. Or, Tessa countered, he showered and went home like a normal human being. Unlikely. Harper tiptoed past a row of open lockers, her eyes darting over gym bags, cleats, and half-crumpled jerseys. She picked up a pair of sweat-soaked socks with 2 fingers and held them like radioactive material. Clues, Tessa. Clues are everywhere. Diseases are everywhere, Tessa muttered. Then Harper froze. On one of the benches, tucked half under a duffel bag, was something that made her heart race. She reached for it, dragging it into the light. A feather. A single bright blue feather, small but distinct, wedged into the crease of the bench. She held it aloft like a holy relic. The falcon's feather, it's Ridgway, this is proof. Or someone's Halloween costume got caught on their gym bag, Tessa said, but her voice wavered. Harper spun dramatically, pointing her pen at an imaginary jury. Ladies and gentlemen, the case is clear. Derek smuggled in the Ridgway infiltrator. They left behind their mark of feather in their haste, and somewhere in these hallowed halls, Nutty's head lies captive. Please stop narrating in the third person. It makes me want to chew my own arm off. Before Harper could retort, a loud clang echoed through the locker room. Both girls froze. Someone was here. Tessa's eyes widened. We need to go. Harper grabbed her wrist. Or we need to follow the sound. It could be Derek. The clang came again, this time from the equipment storage room at the far end. Harper crept forward, dragging Tessa along like a reluctant balloon. The door was slightly ajar, a sliver of light spilling through. Okay, Harper whispered. We'll peek inside, gather intel, and retreat gracefully. Your definition of gracefully includes tripping into a trash can, Tessa hissed. Ignoring her, Harper nudged the door wider. Inside, the storage room was cluttered with shoulder pads, helmets, and a jumble of practice gear. And there, crouched in the corner, was a figure fumbling with a large black garbage bag. Harper's heart pounded. She could see the outline of something oddly round and oversized inside the bag. She gasped. The head. Caught red-handed, she declared, bursting through the doorway like a bargain bin superhero. The figure yelped, jerking upright, and the bag tumbled, spilling out its contents. Hulse, but instead of Nutty's smiling squirrel face, out rolled football pads, a tangle of practice cones, and about 10 deflated soccer balls. The figure, a scrawny sophomore with wide, terrified eyes, dropped the bag and raised his hands. Please don't tell Coach. I was just trying to sneak out old gear for the intramural team. Harper blinked. Oh. Tessa groaned into her palms. You scared me half to death for balls? The kid bolted past them and disappeared. Harper slumped against the doorframe, crestfallen. But then, just as she was about to wallow in defeat, she noticed something. Behind the shelves, barely visible under a tarp, was another bag. A duffel, different from the rest. Its zipper strained against the bulk of whatever was inside. And peeking out from the corner of that zipper was something unmistakable, grey faux fur. Harper's breath caught. Tessa, she whispered. Premonition time, the squirrel's close. Chapter 6. Harper lunged for the duffel like a raccoon discovering a treasure chest of French fries. "Wait," Tessa hissed, grabbing her hoodie. "What if it's just another bag of sweaty uniforms?" Harper squatted in front of the shelf, eyes shining with triumph. "Uniforms don't grow grey fur, Tessa. This," she tapped the zipper, "is destiny." The bag was wedged tight under a pile of pads. Harper tugged, grunting dramatically. Either this squirrel head weighs 50 pounds, or somebody wanted it good and hidden. "Harper, maybe we should think this through," Tessa whispered. "Thinking is what amateurs do. We're professionals. Premonition professionals." She gave one final yank, and the bag slid free with a thunk. The zipper groaned as Harper tugged it open, and a cloud of dust puffed out. Both girls coughed, waving the air clear. Harper shoved her hand inside, fingers brushing against rough fabric, and then something soft, fluffy. "Bingo." She grinned like a cat in a bird sanctuary. Slowly she pulled it out. The mascot's head emerged, a little squashed but unmistakable. Nutty the squirrel, with his cartoonishly wide eyes and buck-toothed grin. "Oh my God," Tessa whispered. "You actually found it." Harper held it aloft, her voice echoing through the room. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the nut has been cracked." Then the sound of a door slamming shut froze them both. Footsteps, heavy ones, heading straight toward the storage room. Tessa's eyes widened. "Someone's coming, what do we do?" "Simple," Harper whispered. She shoved the head into Tessa's arms. "You carry the evidence. I'll distract." "Why do I always get stuck holding the giant squirrel?" "Because you have the natural grace of someone who can run without tripping," Harper hissed. She ducked behind a stack of helmets, just as the door creaked open. A figure stepped inside, tall, broad-shouldered, in a Ridgway Falcon's jacket. Tessa nearly dropped Nutty, not Derek, not even someone from Elmwood. Ridgway. The guy scanned the room, frowning. His eyes landed on the shelf where the bag had been. Empty. "Damn it," he muttered under his breath. Harper, crouched behind the helmet, scribbled furiously in her notebook. "Ridgway operative confirmed. Probably stole Nutty. Currently snooping for evidence. Possibly allergic to dust based on sniffle frequency." Tessa was frozen. Nutty's head clutched against her chest like a cursed artifact. She mouthed at Harper. "What now?" Harper mouthed back. "We bolt." But before they could move, the guy turned, his gaze sweeping dangerously close to their hiding spot. Harper's heart thudded. If he found them now, they'd be toast. Then, from somewhere outside, a whistle blew. The guy muttered something under his breath, pulled his hood up and slipped out. Silence settled over the storage room. Harper popped up from behind the helmets, grinning wildly. "Did you see that? Actual rival infiltration. This isn't just a prank, Tessa, it's espionage." Tessa held up Nutty's head like it was radioactive. "And what do you call this?" Harper clasped her hands. "Victory." "Or," Tessa said, "the beginning of the world's stupidest turf war." They stared at the mascot head, Nutty's painted-on grin beaming up at them, as if he knew the game had only just begun. Chapter 7. The next morning, Harper strutted into the student union like a general returning from war, Nutty's giant head tucked awkwardly under her arm. Students stopped mid-coffee sip, conversations froze, and a frisbee even clattered to the floor as she marched to the center of the atrium. She spun on her heel, raised the head over her own like a crown, and declared, "Behold, the prodigal squirrel returns." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones came out instantly. Tessa stood a few feet back, mortified. "Please don't do this, please don't." Harper shoved the head onto her own and posed, Nutty's grin replacing her own. "Fear not, Elmwood. Nutty is safe thanks to Harper Van-Kate and her unmatched premonitions." For a moment it worked. Applause broke out. Someone even shouted, "Go Squirrels!" And then a voice cut through the crowd. Which Nutty is that?" The room went quiet. A student from the pep squad pushed her way forward, arms crossed. That's not the nutty head. That's the backup. Murmurs spread like wildfire. Harper yanked the head off, hair sticking up in sweaty tufts. Excuse me? The what now? The backup head. The girl rolled her eyes. We keep a spare in case someone barfs in the main one or it gets damaged. Tessa slapped her forehead. Of course there's a backup. Harper sputtered. What, no? This is the head. I found it in a Ridgeway spy's secret stash. Pretty sure you found it in the equipment room, the pep squad girl said flatly. We retired that head last year. The ears were too floppy. Harper stared down at Nutty's big dopey grin, betrayal in her eyes. Floppy ears, that's the reason you retire an icon. It was a safety hazard, the girl replied. People tripped. Snickers rippled through the students. Harper flushed scarlet. Okay, fine, she snapped. Maybe it's the backup, but that doesn't explain why it was hidden under a tarp, inches away from a Ridgeway infiltrator, or why this feather, she whipped it out of her pocket, was found in the very same room. The crowd leaned in again, tension teetering between disbelief and curiosity. Face it, Harper said, slamming the feather down on a table. Someone from our school helped Ridgeway steal Nutty, and I'm going to find out who. A chorus of oohs swept through the atrium. The pep squad girl scoffed, but her confidence wavered. You can't prove that. Yet, Harper corrected, stabbing her pen into the air. But I will. She stormed off dramatically, Nutty's head bobbing under her arm, Tessa hustling after her. Do you realize what you just did? Tessa hissed once they were outside. Yes, I captivated the masses, sowed intrigue, and raised the stakes. You also just declared war on half the campus. Do you know how many clubs and teams have access to Nutty? Harper grinned. Then the suspect pool is rich. Let the games begin. Tessa groaned. You're going to get us banned from the football game, aren't you? Maybe, Harper said cheerfully, but we're going to solve this first. Chapter 8. By lunchtime, Harper had transformed the corner booth of the dining hall into what she proudly called HQ. A whiteboard stolen from the psych department leaned against the wall covered in scribbles. Suspects: Derek, suspicious backpack feather; pep squad, access to Nutty storage; theatre kids, costume skills; and try, football team; motive, rivalry hype; faculty, Dean. Tessa sat across from her, stabbing a salad with all the enthusiasm of someone waiting for a meteor to strike. You know you can't interrogate the entire campus, right? Interrogate? No, interview. Harper circled the word theatre kids 3 times. We'll gather testimony, read body language, expose lies. Boom, suspect pool shrinks. It'll explode, Tessa muttered. But Harper was already flagging down their first victim. Interview #1, Pep Squad. A girl in a glittery Elmwood hoodie slid into the booth. Harper leaned forward dramatically. Tell me about your access to Nutty. The girl blinked. I'm the head of the Pep Squad. I keep the Mascot schedule. Why? Do you resent Nutty? Harper asked, eyes narrowing. What? No, he's the heart of school spirit. Then why retire floppy ears Nutty, The girl stiffened. That wasn't my decision, it was safety. Safety or sabotage, Harper countered. The girl scoffed, muttered, You're insane, and stormed off. Harper scribbled furiously in her notebook. Defensive, overly loyal, possible zealot. Tessa buried her face in her hands. Interview #2, theatre kids. A pair of students in all black sat down next. Harper eyed them like a hawk. You two know costumes, fake IDs, prop feathers. Could you replicate Nutty? The taller one shrugged. We could if we wanted, but we didn't. The other chimed in. We've been busy rehearsing Hamlet with hand puppets. Alibi 2 rehearsed, Harper muttered, suspicious. It's literally our play, the tall one said. Tessa waved them off before Harper could accuse them of running a puppet-based smuggling ring. Interview #3, faculty. Professor Layton, their eccentric advisor, humoured them with tea at his office. Harper leaned across his cluttered desk. Tell us, Professor, where were you the night of the squirrel heist? Reading sophomore essays, he said with a groan. A crime far greater than yours. Tessa smiled. Thank you, Professor. Sorry for bothering you. But Harper wasn't done. She tapped the feather against the desk. Do you recognize this? Leighton adjusted his glasses, squinting. Looks like a craft store feather. Cheap dye. The kind they sell by the bag. Harper gasped. You mean anyone could have planted it? Leighton smiled knowingly. Anyone, including you, Harper. Her jaw dropped. Are you accusing me? Just saying, he sipped his tea. Sometimes a clue is a clue, and sometimes it's theatre. Harper left the office looking rattled. By evening, the whiteboard was more chaotic than before. Every suspect had new notes in red pen. Possible zealot, rehearsed alibi, professor knows too much. Tessa gestured at the mess. Congratulations. Instead of narrowing suspects, you've turned half the school into accomplices. Harper beamed. Which means the real culprit is hiding among them. We're close, Tessa. So close. Or, Tessa said, you're in way over your head. But Harper's eyes were already locked on her next target. Derek. She tapped her pen against the feather. Tomorrow we press him harder, and this time he cracks. Chapter 9. Derek never looked more suspicious than he did that Wednesday afternoon. At least that's what Harper insisted as she dragged Tessa across campus like a bounty hunter hauling in a fugitive. There, she whispered dramatically, ducking behind a tree. Notice the way he slouches. Guilty posture. Classic nut thief hunch. Tessa peered around the trunk. Derek was just eating a sandwich. He looks like someone trying to avoid being ambushed by you, which, fair. Exactly. He knows I'm onto him. No, Tessa corrected. He knows you're insane. But Harper was already marching across the quad, notebook in hand, pen like a dagger. She slammed both palms onto Derek's picnic table. Confess! Derek choked on his sandwich. What the hell, Harper? Where were you the night of the squirrel heist? He blinked. Are you seriously doing this right now? Yes, Harper said, scribbling furiously in her notebook. Alibi. Now. Derek glanced around. Students were already filming on their phones. He groaned. Fine, I was at the Ridgeway game. Basketball, not football. Half the school was there. You can ask literally anyone. Harper narrowed her eyes. That's exactly what someone with too many witnesses would say. That's what having an alibi means. Tessa slid onto the bench next to him, exasperated. She's convinced you're part of some squirrel smuggling ring. Derek rolled his eyes. Of course she is. Harper jabbed her pen at him. Explain the feather in your bag. He froze. What feather? Blue, falcon blue, found in your possession. Derek rubbed his temples. That wasn't my bag. It was the team's laundry bag. I carried it from the field house. Coach handed it to me. Anyone could have dropped crap in there. Harper blinked. Wait, so the bag wasn't yours? No, God. Derek shoved the last bite of sandwich in his mouth. I don't care about your dumb mascot. I care about passing bio and not being harassed in public. Harper's brain spun. She flipped through her notes. Feathers, storage room, backup head. Could she have been wrong about Derek this whole time? Tessa raised her eyebrows. You know, for once, maybe, just maybe, the world doesn't revolve around your premonitions. But before Harper could respond, Derek muttered something under his breath. Figures Ridgeway would stoop this low again. Harper's head snapped up. Again? Derek froze mid-chew. I didn't say that. Oh, you definitely did. Harper's grin spread like wildfire. What do you mean again? Derek shoved his tray away and stood. Forget it, I've got class. Harper leapt up, blocking his path. Spill it, Derek. You know something. I don't, he said flatly, shouldering past her. But Harper saw it in his eyes, a flicker of guilt, or maybe fear. Whatever it wasn't nothing. She spun toward Tessa, triumphant. Did you hear that? There's history here. Ridgway's done this before. Tessa groaned. You're like a raccoon that finds one shiny wrapper and decides it's proof of buried treasure. Exactly, Harper's grin widened. We're digging up the past, and I have a feeling, she tapped her temple. The key to solving Nutty's disappearance lies in what happened the last time Ridgway struck. Chapter 10. Elmwood High's library smelled faintly of dust, old carpet, and the faint metallic tang of ancient computer terminals that had been retired to the far corner. Students only came here for 3 reasons: to cram before finals, to nap under the pretense of studying, or to avoid the chaos of the cafeteria. Harper, however, had declared it the official war room of the case. This is where the truth lives, she announced, setting her notebook down dramatically on a wooden table that wobbled every time someone leaned on it. Tessa raised an eyebrow. Pretty sure the truth doesn't live in the back issues of Elmwood Gazette. But fine, sure. Let's unearth some dusty drama. I'm telling you, Harper said, lowering her voice like she was in a spy movie. Derek slipped up for a reason. Ridgway has history with us. And if they stole Nutty now, it's not random. It's a repeat offence. Tessa sighed, but she pulled a stack of bound newspapers toward her anyway. So what are we looking for? A headline that says Ridgway jerks steel squirrel head, film at 11? Something like that. The two settled into their research. The minutes stretched into an hour, punctuated only by the crackle of turning pages and the occasional annoyed shush from the librarian when Harper got too excited. And then Tessa found it. Harper? She tapped a finger against the yellowed page. You might want to see this. Harper leaned over, practically climbing into Tessa's lap. The headline screamed across the page in thick black ink. Mascot mayhem. Elmwood's Falcons vanishes in rivalry prank. The article was from 15 years ago. Ridgway had stolen Elmwood's old mascot costume, back when they were the Falcons instead of the Squirrels, and paraded it across the halftime field at their own homecoming game. Bingo, Harper whispered. Her eyes gleamed. It's a tradition, a cycle. The same school, the same crime, just updated for the current mascot. They're escalating. Tessa frowned. Escalating, Harper, they stole a costume head. That's not exactly organised crime. You don't get it. Harper jabbed at the page with her pen. They humiliated us once, now they're doing it again. This isn't just a prank. It's psychological warfare. You're really selling this as true detective thing, Tessa muttered. But Harper was already flipping through the article, devouring every detail. Names of suspects, teachers quoted, even a grainy black and white photo of a police officer holding the falcon head like it was evidence from a murder scene. What if it's the same family? Harper asked suddenly. Like kids of the original pranksters, carrying on the legacy? Or, Tessa said dryly, maybe some teenagers just wanted to mess with their rivals. Revolutionary theory, I know. But Harper's mind was racing. Derek's weird comment, the feather in the bag, the storage room, everything felt connected now. She could almost see the threads weaving together like the world's dumbest conspiracy corkboard. Just as she was scribbling furious notes, the library door creaked open. Harper froze. It was Derek. He scanned the room, spotted them instantly, and groaned. Of course. Tessa leaned back. Do you have like a tracker on her or something? Don't tempt me. Derek stalked over, dropping his backpack on the table. Look, whatever you think you're doing, stop. Ridgway's not worth it. Harper narrowed her eyes. Funny. That sounds like someone who knows exactly what Ridgway's planning. I don't, Derek rubbed his face. I've seen how far they'll go, that's all. Tessa sat up straighter. Okay, so you do know something. Derek hesitated. For once, the cocky athlete act slipped, replaced with something almost vulnerable. My brother was at Elmwood 15 years ago, he said quietly. He was one of the guys who pulled that falcon stunt. It didn't end well? Harper's heart skipped. Didn't end well, how? Derek looked away. The cops got involved. The principal nearly expelled half the team. It haunted him. He said it was supposed to be harmless fun, but it spiraled. He told me never to get mixed up in rivalry crap, because once it starts, it doesn't stop. Tessa leaned back, arms crossed. And yet here we are, round 2. Exactly, Derek's jaw tightened. If Ridgway stole Nutty, they're not just trying to prank us. They're trying to one-up what happened before. They'll drag anyone down with them if they can. Harper felt a thrill in her chest. This was it, the smoking gun, the link to the past, the motive. But Tessa's voice cut through her thoughts. Derek, if you know so much, why didn't you just tell us earlier? Because you're exhausting, he shot back, glaring at Harper. And because I figured no one would believe me. Everyone just laughs at the rivalry. No one thinks it's serious. Harper stood, notebook in hand, eyes blazing. Well, I believe you. And I'm going to prove it. Ridgway isn't getting away with this. Not this time. Derek sighed, shoulders slumping. You're going to get yourself in trouble. Trouble's my middle name, Harper smirked. Well, technically it's Louise, but close enough. Tessa groaned, burying her face in her hands. Why do I let you drag me into this? Because you love me, Harper said sweetly, tugging her friend up by the arm. Now come on, we've got 15 years of unfinished business to crack open. As they left the library, Harper's thoughts whirled. Ridgway had a history of targeting Elmwood's pride, and now they had escalated the rivalry by stealing Nutty. But what if Derek was right? What if it wasn't just a prank, but something bigger? Something meant to crush Elmwood's spirit once and for all. For the first time, the case felt less like a game and more like a battle. And Harper wasn't about to lose. By the time Harper was home that evening, she had covered her bedroom wall with sticky notes, strings of yarn connecting names, dates, and theories. To anyone else, it looked like chaos. To Harper, it was a map to the truth. Step 1, she muttered, pacing. Confirm Ridgway involvement. Step 2, figure out their insider at Elmwood. Step 3, retrieve Nutty before homecoming or risk total school humiliation. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. Stop digging or you'll regret it. Harper's breath caught. Her eyes darted around her room like the culprit might crawl out of her closet. Then her lips curled into a grin. Oh, it's on. Chapter 11. Harper stared at her phone for a long moment after the threatening text arrived. The glow of the screen painted her face pale blue in the otherwise dim room, her walls plastered with sticky notes and strings of yarn like a detective's fever dream. Stop digging or you'll regret it, she read aloud slowly, savouring each word like it was a challenge. Then she grinned, that familiar mischievous spark flaring in her chest. Well, that's not ominous at all. Across the room, Tessa flopped onto Harper's bed, a bag of gummy bears open beside her. She'd been through enough of Harper's harebrained sleuthing sessions to know when trouble was brewing. And this, anonymous threats, was practically a neon sign. Harper, Tessa said around a mouthful of red gummies, that's not a good thing. People don't just text stop digging unless they're serious. Or unless they're scared, Harper countered. She paced, twirling her phone in one hand like a prop, which means we're close. They know we're onto them. Tessa sat up, squinting at her. Or it means they'll, I don't know, slash our tyres, dump stink bombs in our dorm room. Please remember, this is Ridgway we're talking about. These are people who think spray painting a giant squirrel on the Elmwood statue is peak comedy. Harper leaned against her desk, smirking. You don't threaten someone unless you've got something to hide. And if they're hiding something, well, that means Nutty is closer than we think. Tessa groaned and face-planted into a pillow. Why do I even try? The next morning, Harper strutted across campus like she had an audience, trench coat flaring behind her, even though it wasn't particularly windy. Tessa trudged alongside, clutching her coffee like it was the only thing keeping her alive. What exactly is the plan? Tessa asked, yawning. The plan, Harper said, lowering her voice theatrically, is to flush out our mole. Our mole? Tessa blinked. You've officially gone full Cold War. Think about it. Harper spread her arms, spinning in place. Nutty didn't just sprout legs and wander off. Ridgway had help. Someone on our side unlocked the door, passed along intel, maybe even delivered the head to them, which means... She pointed at a passing student, who startled and scurried off. The traitor could be anyone. Tessa stopped walking. You just accused a random sophomore carrying a trumpet case. You can't trust trumpet players, Harper said seriously. Too much lung capacity. Tessa buried her face in her hands. But Harper wasn't joking, not entirely. If Ridgway had managed to steal the head, they had to have someone on the inside. That text last night was proof the mole didn't want her digging. And Harper loved nothing more than ignoring good advice. Their first lead of the day came from an unlikely source, the Elmwood Pep Squad. As Harper and Tessa passed the gym, they spotted a cluster of cheerleaders huddled near the entrance, whispering furiously. Harper's detective antennae tingled. She swerved towards them before Tessa could drag her in the opposite direction. "Ladies," Harper greeted, sliding into the circle like she belonged there. "What seems to be the emergency? Mascara shortage? Pom-pom smuggling ring? Tell Detective Van-Kate everything." The cheerleaders exchanged looks. Finally, one of them, Kaylee Elmwood's perpetually peppy flyer, spoke up. "Somebody trashed our locker room," she said. "Like, trashed. Spray paint everywhere. They wrote Go Ridgway on the mirrors." Harper's eyes lit up. "Sabotage." "Vandalism," Tessa corrected. "Sabotage," Harper insisted. She crouched like she was about to dust for fingerprints, pulling a small magnifying glass from her bag. Tessa swore Harper carried that thing around just for dramatic effect. "Can we help you?" Kaylee asked uncertainly. "Yes, by staying out of my way." Harper swept into the locker room like she was entering a crime scene. The damage was obvious. Graffiti scrawled in Ridgway's colours, lockers dented, glitter tossed everywhere. It was chaotic, messy, and strangely... rushed. Harper crouched near a spray-painted slogan. "Ridgway rules." The letters dripped unevenly, too unevenly. "See this?" Harper tapped the drips. "This paint wasn't dry when someone left, which means they were interrupted. Which means they were sloppy," Tessa offered. "Exactly, and only an amateur leaves this kind of trail." She scanned the room, eyes darting over every detail. A scuff mark on the floor, glitter scattered in a distinct trail, a smudge of paint on a locker handle. "Bingo," Harper pointed. "They touched this locker with paint-covered fingers. If we figure out whose locker it is..." "Harper," Tessa cut in, holding up her phone. "Or we could just check the security cameras. The locker room entrance has one, remember?" Harper froze mid-gesture. "That works too." The footage, however, proved both helpful and frustrating. Back in the campus security office, Officer Dan, their grumpy nemesis, pulled up the grainy black and white video. He grunted, clearly annoyed to see Harper again. "Why am I not surprised?" he muttered, sipping from a mug labelled World's OKest Cop. "Because your instincts are finally catching up to my brilliance," Harper said sweetly, leaning over his shoulder. The footage showed two hooded figures sneaking into the locker room late at night. Their faces were obscured, but their jackets bore the unmistakable colours of Ridgway. "There you go," Dan said flatly. "Case closed, rival pranksters, done." "Not so fast," Harper paused the video. "Look at their shoes." Dan squinted. "Their shoes. They're Elmwood shoes," Harper zoomed in until the pixels blurred. "That's not Ridgway merch. That's from our bookstore, which means at least one of them isn't from Ridgway. They're local. They're ours." Tessa peered closer, frowning. "You can actually tell that?" "I have the eyes of a hawk," Harper said smugly, "and the deductive reasoning of, well, Sherlock. But funnier." Dan groaned. "You're imagining things." "Am I?" Harper asked innocently. "Or is the mole right under your nose?" Dan shoved his chair back. "Out. Both of you. Now." But Harper was already scribbling notes furiously in her notebook. By the time evening rolled around, Harper had narrowed her suspect list to 3 possible inside men. Marcus Feldman, a marching band member with Ridgway cousins. Caitlin Rowe, a cheerleader who had mysteriously lost her keys right before the theft. Ethan Blake, a student worker in the athletics office with access to storage room schedules. Each had motive, each had opportunity, and each was now firmly in Harper's crosshairs. "We need to test them," Harper declared, pacing their dorm room like a general before battle. "Test them?" Tessa asked warily. "Yes. A sting operation, a loyalty trap." Harper clapped her hands. "We feed each suspect different fake intel. Whoever leaks it to Ridgway is our mole." Tessa stared at her. "That's actually smart." Harper beamed. "You sound surprised." "Because usually your plans involve disguises and pudding cups," Tessa said. "Pudding cups are underrated investigative tools," Harper said defensively, but she was already sketching out the plan on a whiteboard she'd swiped from the study lounge. Tomorrow, Elmwood would have 3 suspects walking around campus, each carrying a breadcrumb trail only Ridgway could use. And Harper would be watching. As she capped her marker with a flourish, her phone buzzed again. Another anonymous text. "You're making a mistake, back off." Harper's grin widened. "Oh, now we're definitely onto something." Tessa groaned. "This is how people end up in true crime podcasts." "Then I hope they spell my name right," Harper said, tucking her phone away, "because by tomorrow we'll have our mole." That night, Harper lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind buzzing. The threats only confirmed she was circling the truth, the history, the rivalry, the sabotage. It all pointed to something bigger than just school spirit. But what gnawed at her was Derek's warning. His brother's stunt had spiraled out of control. What if this one did too? Harper closed her eyes, whispering into the dark. Not this time. Not on my watch. And somewhere out there, someone was already preparing their next move. Chapter 12. Harper Van-Kate lived for the thrill of a plan, not the neat, carefully colour-coded plans that Tessa's professors loved, but the kind that felt like juggling flaming swords while walking a tightrope strung between skyscrapers. Messy, risky, beautiful. And her sting operation was exactly that. "Let me run this by you one more time," Tessa said the next morning, clutching her latte with both hands like it was emotional support. They stood under the old oak near the student union, watching people stream across campus. "We're planting fake information with each of the suspects. Then, whichever piece of intel Ridgway uses will point us straight to the mole." Harper nodded, scribbling on her whiteboard like she was unveiling a master plan to a jury. "Classic trap, works every time in spy movies, it's foolproof." Tessa eyed her. "You've said foolproof about what, 17 plans now?" 18, Harper corrected. "And at least half of them worked." Tessa sighed. "So basically, 50%. Better odds than Vegas." Harper snapped the cap onto her marker and surveyed her suspect board one last time. Marcus, Caitlin, Ethan. 3 names, 3 lies to dangle. The trick, Harper knew, was to make each piece of intel juicy enough that a Ridgway mole couldn't resist passing it along. For Marcus Feldman, she casually mentioned she'd overheard a rumor about Elmwood moving Nutty's replacement suit into the old drama storage building. Marcus had Ridgway family. If he was the mole, they'd know to strike there. For Caitlin Rowe, Harper made sure to accidentally talk too loudly in the cafeteria about a pep rally skit featuring Nutty making a triumphant return at halftime. If she was the mole, Ridgway would know the exact date and time to humiliate Elmwood. And for Ethan Blake, she went straight for logistics. While helping him in the athletics office, she dropped hints about the janitors storing spare costumes in the basement laundry facilities. If Ethan was feeding intel, Ridgway would be sniffing around the laundry hall. 3 lies, Harper said dramatically as she and Tessa left the athletics office. 3 chances to catch a traitor. By this time tomorrow, the mole will reveal themselves. Tessa muttered. Or we'll just look like idiots chasing rumors. Details, Harper said with a wave of her hand. The waiting was the hardest part. Harper spent the rest of the day prowling campus like a cat on a stakeout, dragging Tessa along for backup. They checked the laundry hall first, nothing unusual, then the drama building, same deal. Finally, they swung by the pep rally planning meeting. At first, it looked like Harper's scheme had fizzled. No Ridgeway students lurking, no suspicious behavior, nothing but boredom and lukewarm cafeteria nachos. But just as Harper was about to declare her genius prematurely, they spotted it. A strange group of kids in Ridgeway hoodies loitering across the quad from the pep rally flyers. They weren't Elmwood students, too smug, too obvious, and they weren't there by accident. Harper grabbed Tessa's sleeve. They're here for the pep rally. Which means... Tessa's eyes widened. Caitlin, she's the mole. Harper's grin spread like wildfire. Bingo! They didn't confront Caitlin immediately. Harper insisted on gathering more proof, and much to Tessa's dismay, gathering proof apparently meant tailing Caitlin across campus like low-budget spies. Caitlin walked with her cheer squad after practice, laughing too loudly, tossing her ponytail like a shampoo commercial. She didn't look like a mole, but Harper's gut screamed otherwise. See the way she keeps checking her phone? Harper whispered as they crouched behind a vending machine. Classic mole behavior. She's waiting for her Ridgeway handlers to text her the next mission. Tessa rubbed her temples. Or she's texting her boyfriend, or her mom, or literally anyone else. Don't ruin this for me. Harper adjusted her sunglasses, which she wore even though it was cloudy. Eventually, Caitlin split off from the group, cutting through the student union. Harper and Tessa followed at a not-so-subtle distance, dodging behind furniture and nearly knocking over a kid carrying a tray of sodas. Caitlin slipped into the computer lab. Harper and Tessa peered through the window. There she was, typing furiously, glancing over her shoulder, pulling up what looked suspiciously like a Ridgeway email address on the screen. Harper's heart raced. Gotcha. But before she could charge in, Derek appeared behind them. What the hell are you two doing? Tessa jumped so hard she almost face-planted. Harper whirled around, finger pressed to her lips. Shh, we're on the verge of unmasking a saboteur. Derek peeked through the glass. His expression darkened. Caitlin? You sound surprised, Harper whispered. I am surprised. She's the one always yelling about school spirit. She paints her face at games. Harper smirked. The perfect cover. They watched as Caitlin finished her email, hit send, and closed the tab in a hurry. She left the lab looking around nervously. Harper ducked under the window ledge, heart pounding. That's it, Harper hissed. We've got our mole. Derek crossed his arms. So what now? March up and accuse her. She'll just deny it. Harper's grin turned sly. No, we catch her red-handed. We let her lead us to Ridgeway. Tessa groaned. Why do I feel like this is going to end with us in a dumpster? Later that night, Harper put her plan in motion. She texted Caitlin anonymously using a burner app. The message was simple. Delivery tonight. Old storage building. Midnight. It was bait, plain and simple. If Caitlin was the mole, she'd show up. If she wasn't, Harper would eat her own notebook. Tessa was less than thrilled about the midnight stakeout. She wore 3 hoodies, carried a thermos of coffee, and muttered under her breath the entire walk to the storage building. Derek tagged along too, claiming Harper needed someone with actual muscles in case things got sketchy. The building loomed in the moonlight, abandoned and creepy. Perfect setting for a showdown. They crouched behind a row of bushes, breath clouding in the night air. Remind me again why I agreed to this, Tessa whispered. Because you believe in justice, Harper said. Because I lost a bet, Tessa corrected. Then footsteps. Caitlin. She crept toward the building, glancing around nervously, phone clutched in her hand. She wasn't dressed like someone sneaking off for fun. This was deliberate, purposeful. Harper's pulse quickened. Showtime. They followed as Caitlin slipped inside. The building was dark and smelled faintly of mildew. They kept to the shadows, barely daring to breathe. Inside, Caitlin paced, checking her phone again. A few minutes later, headlights flickered through the broken windows. A van rolled up outside. Ridgeway plates. Tessa's eyes widened. Oh my God! 2 figures in hoodies climbed out, hauling bags. They slipped inside to meet Caitlin. Harper strained to hear their muffled voices. "New plan. Halftime. Big reveal." Caitlin nodded, pulling something from her bag. It gleamed under the weak moonlight seeping through the windows. Nutty's head. Harper gasped so loudly Derek had to clap a hand over her mouth. It was real. Caitlin had been hiding Nutty all along, and now she was about to hand him over to Ridgway for their grand humiliation stunt. Harper's brain raced. This was it, the smoking gun. But if they charged in now, Ridgway would bolt with Nutty. They needed timing. "On 3, Harper whispered, yanking Derek's hand off her mouth. 1, 2... "Wait," Tessa hissed. "Do we even have a plan after 3? "Improvisation is a plan," Harper whispered back. Before she could hit 3, though, Caitlin froze. She looked around sharply like she sensed them, her eyes locked on the shadows where they hid. "Someone's here," she hissed to the Ridgway kids. The hooded figures dropped their bags and started toward the bushes. Harper's heart plummeted. They'd been made. "Run!" Harper shouted. Chaos erupted. Ridgway kids charged. Caitlin shoved Nutty's head back into her bag. Derek lunged forward, trying to block the door. Tessa screamed something unintelligible. Harper dove for Caitlin, hands outstretched, and then everything dissolved into shouting, scrambling, and the crash of something heavy hitting the floor. When the dust settled, Harper was lying flat on her back, groaning. Ridgway was gone. So was Caitlin. So was Nutty. All that remained was one of the dropped bags lying abandoned on the floor. Harper crawled over, unzipped it, and froze. Okay. Inside were Ridgway banners, spray paint cans, and, most importantly, a folder of printed emails. Emails between Caitlin and someone at Ridgway, planning every step of the Mascot heist. Harper clutched the folder like treasure, adrenaline still buzzing in her veins. "They got away," Derek muttered angrily. "Yeah," Harper said, a manic smile spreading across her face. "But now we know exactly who we're up against." And she wasn't about to let them win. That night, back in her dorm, Harper pinned the folder to her crime wall, strings of yarn zigzagging across it like spiderwebs. Tessa sat cross-legged on the bed, still pale from the chase. "So what now?" Tessa asked quietly. Harper stood back, surveying her work. "Now, we take back Nutty. We crash Ridgway's little halftime stunt before it happens." Her grin sharpened. The mole is exposed, the game is on, and Harper Van-Kate does not lose. Chapter 13. The Dean's office had never felt so tense. Harper Van-Kate sat in one of the stiff leather chairs across from Dean Halloway's desk, her leg bouncing like a drum roll in a bad marching band. Tessa was perched beside her, posture painfully upright, like she was trying to physically will Harper into behaving for once. Across from them, Dean Halloway loomed with his usual air of withering disdain, as if simply breathing in Harper's vicinity lowered his IQ. "'Tis not fwait." The difference this time was that Harper wasn't bluffing. She wasn't relying on a cheeky premonition or a dramatic metaphor, or a half-baked cafeteria reenactment involving pudding cups. This time, she had the case solved. "Miss Van-Kate," the dean said, voice clipped, "for the last time, this is neither the time nor the place for one of your little, what do you call them, episodes." "Premonitions," Harper corrected, flashing her widest grin. "And actually, Dean, this is exactly the place. The final act of the play. The curtain call. The season finale." Tessa pinched the bridge of her nose. "Please just get to the point." "Gladly." Harper popped up from her chair and began pacing in front of the desk, hands slicing through the air. The case of the missing Mascot head started with one obvious assumption, that Pinehurst, our eternally obnoxious rivals, snuck onto campus and swiped the squirrel head to humiliate us. And sure, that's what they wanted everyone to believe. But here's the twist. "Miss Van-Kate," the dean said, voice sharp. Don't interrupt, you'll ruin the pacing, Harper scolded. As I was saying, yes, Pinehurst wanted to gloat, but to steal the head, they needed help from someone on the inside, someone with access, someone who knew exactly where the mascot costume was stored and how to bypass the cheap padlock that campus security thinks is cutting edge. There was a muttered cough in the back of the office. Harper turned, locking eyes on her target. Jonah, star basketball forward, Pinehurst's old rival, and the golden boy of Westbridge College, looked pale under the fluorescent lights. Harper, this is ridiculous, he sputtered. You're just making stuff up like you always do. You've got no proof. Proof? Harper clasped her hands dramatically. Oh, I've got proof, Jonah, and you've got bleach stains on your hoodie. A ripple of confusion spread through the room. The dean blinked. Tessa perked up. Harper strode forward, pointing at the faint white splotches near Jonah's sleeve. See that? Bleach. Same bleach used to scrub away the squirrel storage room's graffiti. Graffiti, might I add, that was conveniently sprayed after the head was stolen. A distraction. But here's the kicker. Only someone with keys to the gym's custodial closet could have gotten that specific brand. Jonah's jaw clenched. That doesn't prove anything. Harper leaned closer, lowering her voice to a theatrical whisper. Maybe not, but the ticket stub in your wallet does. She whipped the crumpled stub from her pocket, holding it up like a magician revealing a final card. Front row at Pinehurst's pep rally, the very night our beloved squirrel lost his head. Care to explain how you got that ticket, Jonah? Because last I checked, Pinehurst doesn't exactly hand them out to Westbridge athletes. The dean narrowed his eyes. Mr. Ashford? Jonah stammered. It's not. It wasn't. Look, they paid me, okay? Pinehurst boosters. They said if I helped, I'd get a shot at transferring, maybe even a scholarship. Gasps filled the room. Tessa's mouth dropped open. Harper gave a satisfied flourish. And there we have it, she declared. The Great Squirrel conspiracy solved. Jonah here cut a deal with the enemy, snuck them into the storage room, and poof. Our mascot's head ended up paraded around Pinehurst like some twisted trophy. The dean sank into his chair, steepling his fingers. This is highly irregular and deeply disappointing. His glare fixed on Jonah. You'll be facing disciplinary action immediately. Expulsion is on the table. Jonah buried his face in his hands. Harper dusted her hands together like she'd just taken out the trash. Case closed. You're welcome, Westbridge. Tessa tugged on Harper's sleeve. You could have maybe broken that news a little less theatrically. Please, Harper said, grinning ear to ear. Theatrics are half the fun. Later that evening, the squirrel head was back in its rightful glass case outside the athletic centre. Students gathered to cheer, selfies were taken, and someone even duct-taped a welcome home sign above it. Harper stood a few feet back, arms crossed, watching the chaos with smug satisfaction. Tessa sidled up beside her. You know, for a minute there, I thought you were going to overplay it and the dean was going to kick you out instead. Harper smirked. Premonitions said I'd be fine. That wasn't a premonition, Tessa muttered. Tomato, tomato. Harper shoved her hands in her jacket pockets. Besides, come on, admit it, this was fun. Tessa hesitated, then gave the faintest of smiles. Okay, it was fun. Terrifying, but fun. They stood in companionable silence, watching the crowd. Across the quad, a reporter from the student paper was already jotting notes, no doubt preparing the next day's headline, Squirrel Saved, Campus Psychic Strikes Again. Harper groaned. They're never going to stop calling me that, are they? Nope, Tessa said, patting her on the shoulder. Well, Harper said, stretching with exaggerated nonchalance, good thing my next case is already calling my name. Tessa froze. Wait, what next case? Harper winked. Premonition. You'll see. And with that, she strolled off into the night, already buzzing with anticipation. The squirrel was safe. The campus was celebrating. But Harper Van-Kate knew one thing for certain. Her adventures as Westbridge's most unconventional detective were only just beginning.
Thanks for listening. Stay cozy, and I'll see you in the next story.